Thank you, Sneh. Good morning, students. Good morning, UKZN students and staff. Welcome to the Computer Science Tech Talk series hosted by the School of Mathematics, Stats, and Computer Science, particularly the discipline of Computer Science. I am very aware that we had load shedding on Westfall campus, and I know some students are still trying to log on. Please do not hesitate. The recording will be posted to the students, and we are aware of the technical issues on Westfall campus. That being said, my name is Leena Rajpal, and I am the public representative for the College of Agriculture, Engineering and Science. I want to thank you all for joining us today, and a big thank you to Zoom for taking the time to present to our students. Before we can start, I would like to mention a few house rules. Firstly, the event is recorded. In terms of complying with the POPIA Act, kindly note that we'll use the information for publishing purposes. Should you not want your information to be published for the purposes stated above, kindly send your concerns to rajpal@ukzn.ac.za. During the course of the event, all attendees will be muted with their video switched off. If you have any questions during the presentation, kindly post them in the chat box facility. During the Q&A session, the presenter will give you a chance to ask your questions. Please raise your hand so that the tech person can allow you to unmute and pose your questions to the presenter. If by any chance attendees interfere with the presentations, we will note your details and remove you from the event. Finally, as mentioned earlier, the recordings will be available to all attendees present and will also be posted on the CAES website. I now would like to hand over to Dr. Gwetu from the School of Mathematics, Statistics, and Computer Science. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Leena. Welcome everyone to our Tech Talk today, in which we host a guest from a company that we all should know by now, given the context of online learning. They in fact saved the world. When we all thought all was gloom and dark, there came Zoom. So ladies and gentlemen, today we welcome Mike Williams, who's a technical sales architect at Zoom, who is going to tell us the ins and outs of Zoom that we as programmers, would be interested in. You're probably going to get surprised in terms of what you can actually do with Zoom. So I encourage you to take out your pens and papers because you're about to be empowered. This Tech Talk is slightly different from the ones that we normally have, in that the focus is on recruitment, the focus is on getting you to hear from alumni. This one is, all out in terms of technical and pretty much something that would resonate to the typical computer science student. If you're someone with an entrepreneurial, flair, this is for you, because it will show you how to do different things with Zoom. Likewise, if you're adventurous, if you're technical, if you want to explore different things, this Tech Talk is definitely for you. Now, today, we also have a slight twist to our Tech Talks in that we've got prizes. So I encourage you to look out for those prizes. At some point during the talk, a question will arise. But the catch is you have to volunteer before you know what the question is. So that hopefully is going to encourage you to be interactive, to speak audibly. And the rules of engagement with that are, we don't want to see any answers on the chat box. You specifically have to raise your hand, and I will do my best to work on a first come, first serve basis. So the quicker you raise your hand, the quicker the higher the chances rather are of you winning that particular prize. So I'd like to express great appreciation to Mike for coming along. There's time differences, so great appreciation to you, Mike, for taking the time just to speak to our students. To our students, welcome. Pretty much Mike is going to take us through, and at the end, you will get an opportunity to ask questions. During his talk, you will be muted until we get to a place where we ask a question. But specifically at the end of the talk, you will get an opportunity to interact with our guest and perhaps ask some of the questions that you would like to see clarified. So ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, I would like to hand over to Mike Williams.
Thank you, Mandala. Welcome everyone again to this session. As Mandala said, there are questions throughout, and so I'll be presenting those. Just a hint: the questions and the answers to the questions, it's kind of open book style. If you pay attention, you'll catch on real quick where those answers are. So we want to give out some great prizes. So pay attention, and you'll do just fine. So let me just share my screen here. And then I'm going to ask somebody to tell me verbally that you can see my screen. It says you can see my screen, but I just loved it when I hear that we can, or give me a thumbs up. Looks like Mandala's coming off mute. So
yes, I can see a screen.
Awesome. That's great. Cool. All right. So a little bit about me. So I'm a technical sales architect here at Zoom. I've been at Zoom for about 2.5 years now, a Zoomie as we call ourselves, proudly. Zoom's been around for a little more than 10 years, started by Eric Yuan, with really the mission to create a much more frictionless environment when it comes to joining meetings and the like. Now, there is so much more to Zoom than just meetings. I'm flattered that Mandala gave those great introductory words around that Zoom saved the world. We like to say that we are here really just to help and show care for each other and ourselves when it comes to the way that we connect with each other online. So thank you again. It's a real pleasure to be here. I was in higher education and K-12 in a technical capacity for about 15 years before joining Zoom. So I'm, again, really thrilled to be here. So let's get into talking a little bit about what Zoom is, and that hopefully in the next moment here, you're going to realize that Zoom is actually much more than just a meetings platform. So as this kind of this cool graphic kind of shows off, that we are, meetings, we do rooms, we do events, we have a contact center product. So to dive in a little bit more specifically, looking at each of these kind of colored zones, let's start up at the top at the blue. As you know, we've got webinars. We do telephony, so we can connect folks not just in our meetings over the telephone, but we actually are our own carrier. So we can actually trunk and make phone calls point to point and the like. We do have a meetings component, obviously, that we're using here today. It works amazing. We do have a chat platform, team chat, whiteboard, events. We've also got an AI layer that we are starting to build out across all of our products called Zoom IQ. I'll get down into the red section. That's really a moment of concentration for us for this presentation, so I'll skip over that. And in moving into the orange, the Zoom contact center space, we do have a contact center solution. A lot of people, I will say, I didn't know this for a long time what a contact center was. If you think of a help desk, when you call into a help desk or make a hotel reservation, most likely you're calling into a contact center. It's where a lot of agents are sitting waiting to take your phone call. Contact centers generally are much more than that, though. There's a lot of development happening in that space around omni-channel communication, meaning that when you visit a website and a chat bot shows up on the right-hand side and you're interacting with that, that is considered part of the contact center as well. For some of us, as we move back into spaces like our classrooms and office spaces, Zoom is also in those areas as well. So we have a reservation system now for hoteling, as we call it, meaning when you show up to a place of business, you can select where you'd like to sit and have that space reserved just for you. Conference rooms and digital signage. So that really rounds out kind of our circle, as we call it here at Zoom. And with that, I'm going to get into the really cool stuff, why we're here today. So here's what I'd like to get through and then about the next 30 minutes. I want to give you an overview of our developer platform. As a technical sales architect, this is my area of concentration. So I work in the marketplace side of Zoom, along with Zoom apps and our integration space. So I work hand in hand with product and our solutions engineers. So this is really close to my heart and turf where I work. We're going to talk about some of those developer solutions that are out there today, touch on our app ecosystem and the integrations that are possible and happening today. I want to make sure you have the resources after this session so that you can go off and actually start developing some of your own applications. And then, of course, we'll have time at the end for Q&A. So with that, as Mandala said, you may be surprised to know that Zoom actually does have a developer area, a platform where you can go and develop applications. So kind of reading through this, our platform enables you as the developers, platform integrators, and Zoom customers to easily build apps and integrations that uses the Zoom infrastructure today. Zoom is at the core. This is at the core of all of our products and services. We use our own SDKs and APIs to build a lot of the applications and interfaces that you see here today. So that's kind of an overview of it. So what do we offer you as a student, as a developer? All of these things really, with the exception of a few in here that I'll highlight in a moment. Starting at the top or at the right here under solutions, we've got a number of APIs, and I'll show you where you can get those in a second. But those APIs are going to allow you to query and make calls, REST API calls into Zoom to create stuff, to patch current information, to read content right out of Zoom. So lots of great, powerful APIs, hundreds and hundreds of APIs available for you today. We've also got SDKs. So SDKs, hopefully most of you know, software development kits that allow you to extend the platform, our platform, into your software and solutions, right? So our meeting SDK and video SDK, I'll get into those in depth in a moment here, but just know that we've got a couple of SDKs for you to use in your toolbox. We also have a way for you to listen for event information out of Zoom. So every time somebody joins a meeting, you can set up a webhook that allows you to listen for those events to happen. So maybe you're making some type of event-based application that needs to do something when somebody joins or leaves a meeting or a recording is completed or whatnot. You can listen for those events without actually querying back to Zoom and asking for that information. So webhooks are really powerful. Eventually, in the next couple of, hopefully in the next several months here, we're going to be coming out with WebSockets. WebSockets is just a more powerful version, we'll just say, of webhooks. Tools that are available to you as the developer. We are coming out with a command line interface for Zoom. We're going to cover Jumpstart in a few moments. I'm not going to get into depth on that. And then something called QSS will hit at the end of it. Our app ecosystem consists of second-party integrations and third-party integrations. And I'll also talk a little bit about first-party integrations. So first-party integrations are things that Zoom, applications that Zoom has developed. So we have recognized there are certain cornerstone integrations that we want to make sure that is available to our customers. And so we've gone ahead and actually developed those, and we publish those into our marketplace. Second-party applications are applications that you as a developer create, not to be published to marketplace. So these could be integrations that your university may use for, say, an integration into a class registration system. So knowing that the students that are joining this Zoom meeting are the students that are registered for this class and connected to your student information system. That would be an example of a second-party integration. A third-party integration is an integration in which a developer, again, maybe yourself, has created, but for the explicit purpose of publishing to marketplace, to our marketplace, so that other customers can take advantage of that integration. The app marketplace, as I've been just saying a few times there, the app marketplace is a place where developers, again, can go ahead and publish their application. And this is the point, the meeting point for our customers with a developer where they can download your application. Zoom Apps, we'll touch on that again in a little bit. Zoom Apps is a really powerful technology. We've got another SDK out for it as well that just came out this past July. Zoom Apps allows developers to create in-meeting experiences, so applications that run inside of the meeting. We hadn't done this before. Our integrations, which we've got thousands of today, lots of them exist outside of the meeting experience. Examples could include things like a calendar integration. So something where you're scheduling a Zoom meeting and you want to make an API call into Zoom to create a meeting link. that would be an example of an integration that's not a Zoom app. So Zoom apps live explicitly inside of Zoom. Moving over to the developer ecosystem. Our ecosystem, as I've already kind of started to talk about, consists of a lot of second-party and third-party developers. We've got strategic partners as well. So when you look on Marketplace, we've got partnerships with healthcare systems and healthcare vendors. We've got partnerships with game developers and the like. We've also got a lot of hardware partners. So examples of those could include Polycom and Neat. So room-based systems, telephones, and the like. And then we've got platform integrators. These are the folks that are going to go and connect our platform into your platform. So you can work with them to make those connections and develop those resources. And then for you as a student developer, you've got a number of resources at your disposal to help you in your journey in developing. So things like our Premier Developer Support Program, our developer blog, our developer forum. I strongly suggest you go out there and start taking a look at that. After this talk, not during it. The developer forum is where we are also staffing our Zoomies that our developers are constantly in there answering questions. So I encourage you to go out there at some point and take a look at that. And then our developer support website as well. All right, so let's jump into some solutions. So our current core offerings for developers, as I've already started to talk about, those APIs. So these APIs are based on a REST architecture, and they're accessed via HTTPS at specified URLs. So again, I mentioned there are hundreds of these APIs that allow you to manipulate the platform in the ways that you need to make your application successful. Moving to the right, we've got SDKs. So our SDKs, again, allow you to extend our platform, but not necessarily manipulate our platform, but really take our platform into your application now. So I'll show you some examples that other developers have done with our SDKs, which are pretty cool and hopefully inspire you as well. Again, we've got those app tools that we've started to talk about to help you build apps. And we'll talk about what those tools are in a moment. And then we've got webhooks. Again, this is our alternative to really helping you as a developer scale those API calls. So we unfortunately do not allow you to make an unlimited amount of API calls into our platform. When you get into the documentation, you'll see there's different rate limits attached to various APIs and what kind of work they're doing. So you can only call them so many times in a day before you exhaust that capability. So using webhooks to listen for events, say when a person joins a meeting again or leaves a meeting, that's a great way to eliminate the need to repetitively call our platform asking if a person has left a meeting or not. All right, let's jump into what the meeting SDK is. As I said, SDKs allow you to extend and take our platform into your application. So what you're seeing here is a great example of an embedded version of the Zoom branded meetings client experience into, in this case, a healthcare application running on a phone. So if you've ever joined a telehealth call or the like, you probably experienced this workflow where you're coming into your application, your healthcare application, you're looking at what you've got scheduled. And if it's a telehealth visit, in this case, you can click the Start Zoom Meeting. This would be from the perspective of the provider, the healthcare person. And so they can start that meeting and then wait for the patient to arrive. So a similar workflow would be presented to the patient. One thing to note here, notice that on the right-hand side, you're going to see the very similar, if not the exact experience that a Zoom meeting looks like, right? You've got that mute, the stop video, the share content, that green button at the bottom that we all know and love. That is there today. You can't, as a developer, modify this interface in any way. But what's great about the Meeting SDK is it's a really easy way to get off the ground and running when all you really need to do is just provide a collaboration experience for these users inside of your application. So I'm not going to say it's a no code, but it's a lower code solution when you need to, again, integrate this experience into your application. So the Video SDK. So in contrast to Meeting SDK, Video SDK gives you as much flexibility as you want. So when you're using the Video SDK as a user, I would bet money that you probably have used an application to up until this point in the last 2 years where that developer is using Video SDK and you as the user didn't even know it, because the experience for them is totally customizable. So in this example on the left here, what you're seeing is a retail application. So in this application, again, it's running on the phone, and notice it looks nothing like Zoom. That's because it is customized and built for that retail experience. So in this experience, they've chosen to still enable the chat, but notice the share screen is missing, the stop video, stop audio is missing. That developer in that case has removed those capabilities from the application and completely branded it the way they want it. On the right-hand side on that computer screen that you're looking at there, that's an example of a gaming application. So here you've got users playing a game. They're having an interactive video experience. There's chat on the right-hand side. The chat may or may not be provided by Zoom. That could be a totally independent platform, but they're marrying this experience together using components of Zoom and components that they've built. And what's great is that developer, they didn't have to bring to the table any of this collaboration infrastructure. They're using all of Zoom's in the back end. And to the user, they don't even know that they're using Zoom. So it's a really seamless and really cool experience. All right. So again, some potential use cases you've got in front of you. So video and audio, you can develop those peer-to-peer chat applications with those engaging, kind of experiences using audio and video. And again, it's totally customizable. In the middle, we've got a live streaming and screen sharing experience here. So this developer has created a custom real-time video application, again, for gaming and live streaming and sharing screen. But again, they're limiting that functionality and they're wrapping it in their own experience. And on the right, again, there's that retail application. So again, they've enabled the ability to show video, but not send video possibly. They can overlay it. Notice on the top, they've got they're able to have a button where they can click shop this item. So they can add that item to the cart. Again, this looks nothing like Zoom because again, it's not. It's using our SDK and it's inside of their developed application. Here's another great example of using the Video SDK. So we worked with TaskHuman, and they developed an application for wellness. Now, wellness, as you've already talked about, is super important. In the last 2.5 years, a lot of us, I'm still in my basement today, working remotely for Zoom out of Minneapolis, Minnesota. And so, having the ability, again, to connect with those healthcare professionals in a way that makes sense in that moment. And again, they're using our Video SDK to make that possible. So, all right. The Zoom Apps SDK. Again, this launched in July of this year. And again, this allows developers to create experiences not outside of the Zoom experience today, but rather inside of it, inside of our meetings and our webinar space today. So I'll show you some examples of that in a moment. I'm actually using one of them right now. So let me just stop sharing my screen and let me just show you what I'm seeing over on my side here for a brief second. So I'm just going to toggle something on here. So I've got a timer running that's telling me how much time I've got left in this presentation. This is a really useful tool. So Timer is a great example of a first-party application we at Zoom developed. And actually, it was developed, as I'm told, by a number of student developers that we had as interns. But they created an application called Timer today that you can use and set a specific time. I can display it on my screen if I want to have some accountability with all of you to show that I've got 16 minutes to get through this deck before we got some Q&A. And if I don't want to show it, I can toggle a button and take it off. What's really cool about this application is it's accessing the foreground. Notice that it's not behind me, it's in the front of me. So now as a developer, you're able to manipulate the foreground imagery. You could put on lower thirds or any type of graphic here that's animated. You're actually able to control the background of your participants and your host. So there's lots of possibilities. We call these immersive applications. So I ask that you go out at some point, take a look at some of these applications, see if anything sparks your interest. But this is a really cool way that developers can, again, bring their own experience back into the Zoom platform to make it more useful. All right. Let me go back to sharing screen. Okay. And last but not least, let me just cover webhooks one more quick time. Again, it's an alternate to those fast repeated calls back to us using, not using our API, but actually listening for events. And again, as it says, it's event subscriptions, and they sync back up to you into your application. So, and I think what we're coming up here, if I'm right, is a quiz here. So our first quiz that we've got is, what is the best way to avoid making multiple API calls? Hint, it's event-based. Is it A, making a REST API call? Is it B, a webhook? C, using our SDK? Or is it D, making a SQL statement?
Well done. I see Fezega's hand is already up. Any other takers? Any other takers?
Looks like you got a couple.
Okay, we've got Gwetu and we've got Sakiseni, and we will stop there.
All right,
Okay.
it's Fezeka here. I think the answer is B.
And say it out loud, Fezeka and Monday.
Yes,
Say
I
out
think
the
the
answer.
answer is B, webhook.
Congratulations, it is.
Well
Yes,
done,
webhooks are-
Fezeka and Monday. Great. Over back to you, Mike. Congratulations, Fezeka.
Yeah. Yeah, so it is B, it is event, those are listening for events. So we fire off a webhook off to your application, and you need to do something with it or ignore it. So, but it's a way you don't have to query us back again. All right, moving forward. So our app ecosystem components, again, we've started to talk about some of these. I'll talk about them again here to reemphasize them and give you a little more clarity. Our marketplace. Why do we, some people ask us, Mike, why do we have a marketplace? Why do we allow other developers to, develop into our space? Well, quite frankly, we do not have the resources to develop all the ideas that our users have today. So we need to release and open up our platform to all of you who might be thinking of a great use case for an app today. So that is really why you have the entrepreneurial creative spirit that it takes to go even beyond what we can even imagine here at Zoom. So that's why we have a marketplace, because we just cannot do this alone. We need all of you to help too. Zoom apps. As I just talked about, Zoom apps are those applications that live inside of Zoom and enhance that Zoom user experience. Third-party applications, those are yours that you develop, that are intended to be published into our marketplace and to be used by other users outside of your own organization. And then private apps are a great way to get started and start building your first applications, because those only function and they only work inside of your own Zoom account. So those are the main components. Again, marketplace, as we talked about here, again, third-party applications installed, distributed, thousands of applications. If you go to marketplace.zoom.us, you'll see multiple categories for applications. So we really are enhancing this experience, I'll say, for our end users to be able to search, to locate, and to find the applications that meet their needs. And we've got tons and tons of them. All right, moving forward to app integrations. Zoom apps, again, a really cool space to be in right now. That's really on fire, I'll say, as far as a lot of interest from our developer community. Again, these are those applications that seamlessly are in the client experience. And as you can see from the photo on the right-hand side, apps, if you click the button at the very bottom here, next to the end here, you would see a list of applications in the Discover tab. So this is really mirroring our marketplace space. And users are able to identify the application, assuming their administrator has given them access. So your institution may not have given you access to apps today, but if you are in your own account, if you have a free account or whatnot, you would be able to browse and select applications right from here and install those applications. So here's some great examples of applications that are available today in the healthcare and wellness area. So we've got Wellness Coach, Thrive, Reset. So Thrive is really cool because after your meeting ends, you can go here and take a quick 60-second break. So you're not kind of overloaded with meeting, fatigue back to back. We've got Wellness That Works by WW as well. So another great application for those, again, looking to manage kind of their weight loss and wellness in that journey. Gaming. So here we've got a number of games that are very popular. Heads Up, Funtivity, Ask Away, Werewolf Friends, all great games. They take advantage of a lot of the Zoom app technology that we have under the hood. Again, that foreground, that background manipulation. So there's a number of different modes that the games can run in and really, I think, enhance that experience for users. Apps for education. So here we've got Kahoot. So again, quizzes. We could have, if I had known ahead of time, I could have fired up Kahoot and I could have loaded up the questions that I'm asking you, and we could have done it that way as well. But the slides work just as well too. We've got Class Kick app for Zoom. So this is really popular in our K-12 space here in North America, I know. We've got a Draw and Scribble whiteboard application and something called EdCast that allows, again, faculty and students to access videos that are pre-recorded and able to bring those into their curriculum. So lots of really cool and creative ways that people are thinking of using Zoom apps. Let me just grab a quick check on my time here. There we go. All right, perfect. All right, on to our next question and possible prize giveaway. Which type of Zoom app is Timer? Is it a first-party Zoom develop app? Is it a second-party non-marketplace app? Is it a third-party marketplace app that was developed by an external developer and published into Marketplace? Or is it none of the above?
Well done, Tandoleti Tole. Hand is up. Shall we wait for another? Well done, Sakiseni. We'll wait for one more. No other takers. We'll pause it there. Tandoleti, you get the first turn to go.
It's a third-party marketplace app developed by an external developer.
It is not, unfortunately.
Let's hand over to Sakiseni Ntanzi. Sakiseni, are you still there? Okay, Sakiseni, go for it. You can unmute yourself.
It's A.
Please say it out loud.
I think it's A.
Yes, what is A?
It's first party Zoom developed.
That is correct. Yes. So we developed Timer, and if I have to check my sources, but I believe it was developed by a bunch of student interns actually, as one of our first Zoom apps that launched. So congratulations.
Great. Well done, Sakiseni, and well tried, Tandoleti. Over to you, Mike.
All right, moving forward, a few more apps. Again, apps for webinars and events. We've got Twine. Twine is a really cool application that lets you network in your breakout rooms. So I don't know if you've used breakout rooms here. It's a huge feature, I'll say, of our meetings experience where users can move into these, let's call them sub meetings, and have conversations and then come back to this main meeting here. Application developers can actually start to manipulate and control and push people into breakout rooms and bring them back. So for the faculty, if we have many on here, what's really cool about this is you could design an application, a Zoom app, that asks your students a question, and depending on their competency level of how they answer that, it could push them into a breakout room with a TA to further explore that answer, as an example. Now, this might not be a big deal if you've got 12 or 15 people in a class, a seminar session, but if you've got hundreds in a lecture session, this is really powerful. So being able to manage and manipulate breakout rooms programmatically is something that I think is just amazing. Pledge, down the bottom left-hand corner. Pledge allows developers to, again, use applications in a webinar experience. So for those of you that might be working in more of kind of a, let's say, a social justice situation, or like a, a community situation, we're trying to raise community awareness or raise community funds. Pledge is an application that allows those users to engage with that application, donate money towards those causes. So Pigeonhole on the left and then Spinach on the right, both, again, great examples of applications running inside of our events and webinars platforms. So, all right, third-party integrations. So what a third-party integration looks like is it is taking the Zoom experience, and in this case, we're using Asana, which is a project management, task management application, a web app, and it's bringing that Zoom experience into that application. So in here, it's hard to see, it's cut off a little bit, but on the right-hand side, this person is adding subtasks and then actually scheduling a Zoom meeting as part of that experience. So again, using our APIs, this isn't using our SDKs, this is using our APIs and actually bringing that functionality of scheduling a Zoom meeting based on a task right into this application. So that's a great example of a third-party integration experience. So. All right, kind of rounding things out, I want to hit on some developer resources and tools. Let me just do a quick time check. All right, 4 minutes. So first up, I want to talk about Jumpstart. So I know at the beginning of this, we talked about how a number of you are developers, a number of you are hopefully interested in developing applications, and I'm hoping that you start thinking about developing applications for Zoom. But for anybody on here that might be hesitant to developing, maybe it's not for you or whatnot. Maybe you're more on the business side of the house and you're not really thinking, you've got, the skills, or maybe you think you need to hire out those skills. Jumpstart is for you, for the low to no code folks out here. So it is a way to build an application using our web video SDK. And it's for developers to move faster without full app customization. And I'm going to show you an example of this in a second. It's really powerful. It just requires, as you can see on the right here, a few components and configurations. And what it's going to do is it actually generates the code for you, all the web code that's required to run this application. So it's a really quick way in order for you to get started. Maybe you want to prototype something quick. To get started and build something with little to no code at all. And you can do it in minutes. So this isn't quite out for general availability yet, but it will be out shortly. So let me come out of this slide for a quick second here. And let me just jump over to Jumpstart quick. I think this is a second here. Zoom Jumpstart. Apologize 1 second. Here we go. So it is, and I'll put the URL in the chat too, but it's developers.zoom.us/tools/jumpstart. So, so right when I come in, I'm going to click build app. And from here, I'm able to go through and give the app a name. So as I start typing, look what happens on the right-hand side. So it's already starting to modify and give me a preview of what this application is going to look like when it launches. So I'm just going to give it a description of my great first app. And then I'm going to select my next core of features. So for this, remember, we're using Video SDK, which means that for Video SDK, we can modify certain elements of the experience. So in here, I'm going to hide the mute, unmute. I'm going to disable the allow users to disconnect from audio. Maybe I want to stop them from switching audio, but I do want to give them the ability to mute participants when they join a meeting. So I'm going to keep that up. Maybe I don't want them to mute video. I want to disable the chat. I don't need that. I'm going to disable screen sharing because that's not what I need for this application. And we'll leave the meeting controls. Go to next. From here, I can modify my logo at the top, my background image, my app icon, my favorite icon. I can add some links. Maybe I want to link back to Zoom, Zoom's website. So I'll add that in. And now I've got a link up here for the Zoom website. And maybe I want to change the color of the button. Maybe we want it to be more of a red. And that's it. Well, there's one more set of components. It's going to be for the web. We do not have this yet available for mobile or desktop, but those, as it says, are coming soon. And then that's really it. I can hit download code. And what this is going to do is going to compile and pull down that code. And what it's going to give me, I'll jump over here to my IDE. And what this is going to create for me is a fully deployable package that I can push now off to a web server and use that as my jump off point for this application. So if I was to push this off to a web server, I would be able to click start a meeting and have that experience. So we just built an application in less than, I don't know, a minute. And if we had everything wired up to deploy, it would probably take me another couple minutes. But as you saw, there was no code involved there. Now I can explore the code all I want and make any kind of modifications I want, but this gives me a great baseline to start with, right? Because the starting spot oftentimes is one of the hardest spots to go from. So let me jump back into the presentation quick, because I know we've got at least one more prize to give away here. That was my demo. All right, so last but not least, the quality of service subscription, the QSS service as we call it. So this is a pretty recent technology that we released. We heard from a lot of customers that webhooks wasn't enough for events. They really wanted basically everything that Zoom has as far as data about a participant's meeting experience. So the quality of service of this experience, right? In this meeting right now, am I dropping any packets? Am I experiencing any jitter, any latency with my audio or video? This is the kind of stuff that really, for IT administrators, network engineers, this is the kind of information they need to be successful in their areas of the business. And they want to ensure that there is a great quality experience for their end users. So having this information so that they can proactively troubleshoot and identify issues is critically important. So we have this service now. It is a paid for service. It is available only to US-based customers today. I expect we will be branching out beyond that, but I wanted to bring it to your attention because it is a really powerful tool and a piece of data that developers like yourselves could be using in your applications. Some resources for you to take with you as you leave today. Again, that developer forum, super important place where you can interact with other Zoomies about your development issues. So get your answers asked there. Developer support site. We've got a whole breadth of in-depth articles with our knowledge base there for you. We've got SDK documentation, so you can go ahead and review those. We've also got some great reference applications that, again, serve as a great starting and jump off point if you're really interested in Zoom apps. And then, of course, a number of video walkthroughs that show you how to configure and build this stuff. So with that, this is my last slide, and we're going to jump into some Q&A. So how do you move from 0 to 1? Again, explore the possibilities and connect with others in our forum. Lots of great conversations happening there today. We do have a developer summit that is coming up that I'll be presenting at along with other developers. And you can go to that at zoomtopia.com/developer summit. That is taking place in November. So I encourage you to go and to join that. It's a free conference you can join, and you'll be with a bunch of other developers like yourselves. And then again, go build that first app. It's always the most challenging, I think, to do, but I think you'll get a lot out of it by just trying to do it. Use Jumpstart if you want. Otherwise, just dive right into the SDK and start building something for yourself. So with that, we have our last giveaway. So what developer resources are available to you? A Zoom forum, B, SDK documentation, C, reference applications, or D, all the above?
Great. Well done, Klopas. Goes first, then Peter, then Mpo Mukwena, and we will stop there. Klopas, you can go.
Okay. The answer is A, Zoom Forum.
Okay, before we hear whether it's correct or not, Peter, do you want to go? Peter Popola?
Okay, yes, sorry, I was just trying to unmute. I think it's a D.
What does D say?
All of the above.
Okay, I hand over to you, Mike.
That is correct. Yes. Yes, we do have a Zoom forum, but we also have SDK documentation and reference applications. So D, all the above is correct.
Congratulations, Peter Popola, and well tried, Clopas. Great. Over to you, Mike. I presume you
Now we've got
are
Q&A.
done. Awesome. Thank you so much, Mike. Everyone, this is a chance for you to pose audible questions. But before we get to that, I think we just have one question that's in the chat box that was asked by Mukwena. He's talking about Huawei, and I think he's talking about the video SDK. Is that supported?
Yeah, so our video SDK, unfortunately, is a little bit behind where our client is today in its technology. So we're always a couple versions behind. So I would encourage you to stay up to date. I think you can subscribe to notifications on our release notes in the developer area and watch for that to come out. We are running like crazy, I'll say, with updates to video SDK. So.
Great. Feel free to go for it, Peter. We'll take Peter, then we'll take Assad in terms of live questions. Peter, go for it.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Mandla. I just want to ask, in terms of pricing, I know you talked about the pricing for the quality of service part of it, but the other part, like the SDK and the other ones, is there any, is it all for free, or what's the price sort of spectrum for the services?
Yeah, so I can't get into the specifics of price. I'm not in sales, but I will say that the Meeting SDK utilizes an individual's own meeting license today. So if you were to develop an application using the Meeting SDK, you can utilize my license. If I install your application, you would utilize my license. So there's no cost to the developer. For video SDK, there is a cost. It is a different licensing model, and it is a per minute cost. So I will say that the rates for that I don't know. So
right, okay, thank you.
Great, and linked to that, Mike, how does one get their money in terms of when they have this Zoom app? What would you recommend?
So there's a kind of a two-piece to that, maybe. So as far as an application, so let's say there's an application out there that does charge to use. Zoom does not take any type of credit card information through its marketplace. So that would be something that would be out of band outside of Zoom. So your application would have to set up a storefront for yourself to take that credit card information if you were to charge an ongoing fee for your application. So we will basically redirect that user off to you when they go to authenticate and log in. So I think that answers part of your question. Maybe the other part of your question, was that the question?
Yeah, that's what's it. Thanks a lot. Assad, over to you. Assad, you probably are still muted.
That's why I wore this shirt today.
Sorry, yeah, it was telling me the host is not allowing me to unmute, but it worked after that.
Oh, sorry, Assad.
Thanks, Mandla, and thanks, Mike, for the talk. Very interesting to see not only what developers can do, but also all the add-ons that are already available in Zoom. My question is linked to that, what the COVID pandemic has also seen is other competitors also Teams and Google Meet and WebEx have also had to up their game. And obviously Zoom is very popular, but I just wanted your thoughts on how do you see what do you see being the differentiating factor in winning the online meeting war? Is it more just giving a quality product with the best rates of not drop off in speed and things like that, or do you think it's going to be more so who can add more add-ons or make it better for developers. And I guess also to link to that, like probably like Teams and WebEx and Meet are like more like in-house tools with fewer external users. But I'd be very interested in getting your thoughts on like what you think is the most important features going forward in the online meeting war, if you want to call it that.
So I think really what it comes down to, and I had this at the beginning, that I used to work for a university, and I worked in education for 15 years. I'll say what I didn't say in there was that I was actually a Zoom customer before joining Zoom for almost 2 years. And the biggest differentiator, I'll say, as a customer, if I put that hat back on, was the quality, right? So when I would ask others, like, gosh, this Zoom thing, this is well before the pandemic, what do you think about them? I haven't heard about them so much. And everything I got was, it just works, right? Like, it's a very seamless, it just works experience. So it is a huge cornerstone of ours, is quality. So I believe that that for us is a huge differentiator.
Thank you so much, Mike. I've really enjoyed the talk. For me as an educator, I think what stands out to me, are the facilities that are available, for use in the education environment. Twine, for example, I like the example that you used in terms of, pushing people into different breakout rooms based on certain criteria. I also like the simple code based on Jumpstart. Just a final question for me, is all of this, can we get links to all of this via the Zoom website?
Yeah, so all the links that I have today in my presentation that I'll share with you, those are all publicly available. Yes, so yeah.
Awesome. So thank you once again for taking your time, and hope to interact with you more in the future. Thanks to our students and colleagues for joining in. Hopefully you've been empowered, and hopefully, a light bulb has gone on in your head in terms of what is possible out there with Zoom. So ladies and gentlemen, we've come to the end of our Tech Talk. We thank our guest, and we remind everyone that our next Tech Talk is coming up this Friday, where we are hosting Contour. So thank you, everybody. Have a good afternoon.
Thanks.
Thanks, Mike. Cheers.